Welcome to Second Listen Saturday on the Parenting Roundabout podcast, where we share some fun moments from a past episode for your weekend listening pleasure. Look for new episodes every Monday through Friday.
Which one of you is going to confess to overindulging your kids?
Well, probably me, and not just because I am assigned to this topic on the script. So we read a newspaper article called Surprising Ways We Overindulge Our Kids, which, you know, just reading that title will make you feel bad. At least it does.
You know what it does to me. It makes me feel humpy.
Yes. So this is why we chose it as a topic, because if Terry's getting humpy, then that's going to be a good discussion.
Perfect.
So the authors are not talking about spoiling kids with stuff. Their argument is more about when we, and this is a quote, when we over-nurture our children, we fail to give them the gift of independence or to mentor them and apprentice them in the ways and the art of adulthood. And despite the cheesy way that sounds, that is a key point in Catherine Lewis's book, which I talked about with her on a speed round a couple weeks ago, which we can link to. You know, this idea that if you give them privileges that they didn't earn, or if you do things for them that they are quite capable of doing for themselves, it gives them a sense of entitlement that, you know, is not good for anyone. And they have trouble delaying gratification. So, you know, these things definitely happen in my world, and I see them happening, and I know they're bad, and that doesn't mean I can fix them, or I've been able, I should be able to, but I don't know. Is this something that you guys struggle with also?
All the time. My kids don't work as hard for the things that they get, so then I feel like I'm indulging them. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think about it at the time, and then I think, oh, this is probably not a good thing. I should probably make her do chores, or, you know, have her, you know, have them do something to at least earn it, but that doesn't happen much these days.
Right.
I don't know. I have to say I'm guilty of, whether it's finances or attention or material things, I probably tend to be a little overindulgent.
I find it with things like, I don't know, enforcing screen time things, and not because I have a thing in my brain that says like, okay, a kid should only get X amount of screen time and he's had more than that. But it's more like, you know, he'll be playing a game, and I'll say, you have some homework you need to do, and in a minute. Mm-hmm. And I really don't like the constant, like, repeating myself and coming back to it. But yet, if I don't, then straight up, that stuff will never, ever, ever get done.
Right.
You know, and because he doesn't care about the consequence of not doing it. And so, I don't know, I need to find a better way of, you know, of making it his problem and not my problem. And that's the part that's hard.
I don't know. The thing I struggle about with this sort of thing is this idea that there is one way to raise a child correctly, and it's the way that the author has done it personally, and that if you're not doing it that way, you're doing it wrong, and that every kid is going to react exactly the same way to the same parenting. And I reject all of that. You know, I just hate that attitude. And I mean, I've written parenting articles. I'm sure I've had that attitude too, because, you know, you got to fill the page, you got to turn something in. But, you know, they make a big point of, there's a quote here, when we hold a picture in our minds of the adults we hope our children will become, we are less likely to overindulge them in obvious or subtle ways. And I mean, that's very nice, but raise your hand if your adult child is exactly what you plotted carefully all through their childhood and adulthood. There's a lot of variables. There's a lot of variables, including what the child sees themselves being as an adult, which is really none of your business. So the whole thing just rubs me the wrong way and makes me defensive. I don't think I'm indulgent. I think that I try very hard to make them as independent as possible. It's difficult with kids with special needs because there's safety issues.
Yeah.
You know, I send my son to go to work in this stadium, and every day when we pick him up at the end of the day, I cannot believe I am so fortunate that he came out alive. You know, so it's like, it's good to have him work. It's good to have the independence. But at the same point, if you have a kid with a disability that affects decision-making skills and good judgment, you've got to always worry. So then, especially when they're little, you do want to do too much stuff for them. You know, you want to, it's a choose your battles kind of thing. You know, is the risk of this worth the reward? So, you know, I've struggled with that. Plus which I have kids who were hugely not nurtured for a large chunk of their early lives.
Right.
So you don't, well, in a way, they were not nurtured in a warm parenting way. At the same time, they were in an environment where everything was done for them because, you know, it certainly wasn't indulgent, but it was, they had no incentive to, you know, you stay in a playpen all day. That's why my son never left the playpen, and my daughter was very constricted in what she was able to do. There was a cabinet of toys in the room, but those only came out when there were visitors. I don't know what they played with at other times. So that all makes it complicated. I don't want to be like, you know, welcome to Orphanage 2.0, you know, scrub the toilet now. So it's really, really complicated for me. And that's why when I see something like this, it's saying, well, if you're not doing it exactly this way, you're going to have you know, your kid isn't going to come out well, and then it's going to be too late. So,
well, I just think it's relative too, because what I perceive to be overindulgent may be that way because I didn't get that when I was a child, or my parents didn't raise me that way. So I might think that something is overindulgent where you might not think it's overindulgent, right? So, you know, for me, you know, my parents had a very kind of traditional way of raising me and had traditional expectations. And so I was pretty self-sufficient by the time I was, you know, 15, 16, 17 years old. So when I look at my kids at that age and look at what they're doing compared to what I did, well, it's a totally different story. So of course I think, oh yeah, I'm overindulging them because that's not how I was raised.
Yeah.
But then when you compare them to their peers, they're different, you know, things that their peers are getting that they're not. So it's like, it's all relative too, as to what you received when you were.
Jeez, I was pretty indulged when I was a kid. I was my mom's only child, and she was motivated to maybe give me things she didn't have as a kid. And I wound up pretty independent. But, you know, I was at a sports party the other day, sitting at a table of people, and we were talking about smartphones or iPhones, and some of us had iPhones, and some of us were I would never need one of those. They're too expensive. I don't need them. All I need is to be able to call on the phone. And, you know, we were talking about getting a new phone, and if you bought these phones outright, it might be $1,000, which on the face of it, oh my gosh, you're getting your kid $1,000 phone. That's the most indulgent thing in the world. But of course you don't go and buy it for $1,000. You buy it for $20 a month on your phone bill.
Right.
And, you know, if you don't need it, that's fine. I personally use mine a whole ton, and I need it.
Yeah.
My kids have it. Because my kids have iPhones, I can trace their whereabouts. I can text message them. I can email them. I can send them things that they need to see. We get a lot of use out of that. I don't feel like that's indulgent. I feel like that's a useful tool. But to somebody who say, oh, she bought her kid an $800 phone for his birthday, I imagine these newspaper people might say, what did he do to earn that? Which what he did was, you know, worked and spent no money for a long time, and I kind of feel like he deserves something. But you know, but
they don't see that.
It's not like he's getting one every time he asks for you. I said you have to wait until the contract on your last one expires, and when that happens, then we can look into getting a new one. And his battery was its life had become diminished, and so it's a problem when he goes to work for 8 hours. He needs to be able to call me at the end to pick him up. So there's all sorts of reasons for it. So it's like individual to each family. It's individual to each child. You know, you can't look at it and say, well, this is the list of things that are cool, and this is the list of things that you're going to ruin your child.
Right.
If only there was such a list that we could just
be such a list
handily
it's
refer
different.
to.
It's different for every kid. You know, I certainly was judgy about when my kids were in, I guess, junior high, and somebody wanted to pretty much have a, whole big fancy prom at a catering place with limos for middle schoolers. And I was saying, that seemed indulgent to me. Make them wait for prom. Mm-hmm. And there was a concern expressed that, well, some of them might not graduate high school. And it's like, well, this is what happens if you don't graduate high school. You forfeit the big fancy party.
Yeah.
Wow.
So but I suppose for other people that might be, school's been very hard and you want to reward all their hard work. That might seem like a non-indulgent thing. I don't know. I beat my drum, as I always do, of every kid is different, every family is different, shut up. Unless it's me writing the article, in which case.
In which case you should hang up closely every word.
I don't think I've ever been quite... my parenting writing, I don't think, has been absolute, generally. Maybe now and then. I use may a lot.
Yeah. I am conscious of that when I'm writing that sort of thing because, it's certainly been my experience that whenever you deal in absolutes, it doesn't work.
No.
If you do X, your child will do Y. Nope, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So.
And can we get our money back from this columnist if we do everything right and our child does not turn out to be an independent adult? Please give us your address. We'll get in touch with you in about X number of years. Mm-hmm. Breach of contract.
Let you know.
And then they do get independent, and like Nicole's son, they move away. And then you lose control, and they take you off their phone. Who wants that? Chain them to you with indulgences and money. Come on.
Well, that's kind of my husband's philosophy, is that we want them around, so we have to appeal to their senses as young adults. And that usually means money.
That is a responsible opposing viewpoint, I think.
So he's willing to do what it takes to keep them around. And he makes no bones about it. He's like, if we have to take them out for a meal every time, or I don't know, have something here that they need.
Pay for their phone.
I have a friend who has a son with some special needs, and she has always said, like, if I can buy him an experience or a friend or whatever, I'm doing it.
Yeah, hear you, sweetie. Yeah, I've been there
like,
too.
If I can have a really cool birthday party so that people will go. Yes. And he'll feel good that he's got friends.
You're going to do
it. That's how I'm going to spend my money.
I have been there.
There is no value. You can't place a value on that stuff, right?
Right.
It's like...
And honestly, that was a big, we remember when my son did the luge. And, that was expensive and that was disruptive and it took him out of school. But it meant so much to him and it was so meaningful to him to feel special that way, to feel included and invited, and to feel like he was good at that at a time when he wasn't feeling like he was good at anything. And I know that probably looked indulgent, right? Like, to the outside, but
no, that's, you got to do those things,
right?
Yeah,
and it is, and what constitutes being deserving of something, if you do things for them or give them things that they haven't earned. Well, I had behavior charts for my son a lot that were just basically, if he didn't do anything wrong, he got a reward. He didn't have to do anything. It's just if he avoided the things that came naturally to him and were hard for him not to do, that got rewarded. Although I imagine some people would say, but it's not something that's visible to the, if they only see the time he slips and not the times that he, people are not going to necessarily understand that. So it's, parents, your kids, yes, I see nothing wrong with occasional bribery and nurturing, using nurturing in that way. I'm not sure I would use that term. Mm-hmm. Nurturing should be, can you over-nurture? I'm uncomfortable with the idea of over-nurturing, because nurturing seems like the baseline of parenting to me. You know, you want to have all the other things too. You want to have the consequences, and you have to, but it all has to be against a background of nurturing, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Can you say, I'm going to withhold nurturing from you unless you do this? Or you've received your love and nurturing this month, son. Now I want to see some results.
Well, it's kind of like with a little infant, you know. I mean, they do say now you can't spoil a baby. Like you can't spoil a baby by responding to her when she's crying. But that didn't used to be, you know, it would be like, no, you can only feed them every 3 hours because otherwise, I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. But, you know, when my firstborn was a tiny baby and nursing, and, you know, she'd cry and I'd feed her. And my mom was like, are you going to feed that baby every time she cries? Like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And it worked fine. So.
Yeah. And, you know, unless you have a time machine, how are you ever going to know if things would have been different if you had done things differently? Mm-hmm. This is the thing I always wonder about when schools or different authors or whatever, doctors or whatever, tried to lay down the law to me on stuff like that. It's, you know, if we could run an experiment and do it your way and do it my way and then see which way came out best and then go back again and do it that way, that's cool. But we can't. And who knows if the outcome would have been better if I had done it a different way. Not that I don't torture myself over that constantly, but I don't know. I'm going to err on the side of nurturing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big believer in that.